guys, in this video we're going to cover most of the process that takes us from having a set of unedited raw files to a single finished file complete with StarTrails. We'll cover how to batch edit your raw photos in Lightroom so you can export them as JPEGs and use those JPEGs in the free programs that we talked about, StarStax and StarTrails. We'll talk about how to use those two programs and also how to use a script in Photoshop, which are three different ways to create StarTrails using the batch of shorter exposures that you have. Let's get to it. In this case here, I have got a set of around 60 raw files, about 30-second long exposures. They've already been imported into Lightroom, obviously, and I've already edited this first photo a little bit. To edit it, we move in from the Library tab into the Develop tab, and just to show you how this works, I'm just going to make an obvious change to the exposure and it a little bit. Once, however, you've edited it, whenever you're happy and you want to copy the editing that you've done in this single file onto the entire rest of the batch of your exposures, we click copy down here, down in the lower left side, and then we can choose which settings that we want to apply. In this case, I've just checked them all, so all of the settings will be copied over. We click copy. From the Develop tab, we move back into the Library tab, and we want to select all of them. So Control A will select the whole batch. We right click, come down to Develop Settings here, and then Paste Settings. And so our settings that we edited, that single first file, will be applied to every other photo in the batch. And we can see that they're lightening one by one. So this saves us from having to go through and individually edit every one of the 60 photos that we took. Now we want to export them into JPEGs. At the moment, they are raw files still, which we can't use with the StarTrails or StarStax programs. So we come down here to export, and we can export it to wherever we would like. I have already done that though, so they are waiting for me here. Now that we've gone from a set of unedited raw files to a set of edited JPEGs, we're ready to use one of our programs to stack them together to create StarTrails. And we'll start with the StarTrails program. Here we are in the StarTrails program, and I'll include links for everything that we use below the video. What we want to do is we want to add our images to the program with the Open Images button here. We select them all and click Open, and they've all loaded in this section here. It is a very straightforward process now. We click the StarTrails button up here. We have two options. One is the lighten with gaps, and one is a lighten screen blend, which creates fewer gaps between the StarTrails. I'm just going to select this top one because it's a little bit faster. And then the StarTrails program does all the hard work and works to stack our set of images one on top of the other. We can watch as our our pinpoint stars start to elongate and create StarTrails. In this case here, we've obviously also got the moon, which we're stacking over on the right, and we've got a lens flare from the moon, which we're also stacking. This is just going to take another minute or so, we'll come back in a second with the final product that StarTrails has made. we have gone from our single photos of static stars and they've been merged together into StarTrails. In this case, I am in the southern hemisphere and this photo would have been taken in a southwest direction. So we've got the curvature, like the arches over the sky, rather than the circumpolar kind of concentric circles that we would see if we're facing due south in the southern hemisphere. And we can see that was super simple to do. What we can do then as well is we need to save it so that we can keep it. The next program that we can use is a program called StarStax. It is very similar to the StarTrails program. We do the same thing. We want to drag our set of photos in. In this case here, I've got a second set, so I'm going to drag those in. And then we have a few more options over on the right side compared to the StarTrails program. We can use lighten or gap filling, darken, add, subtract. I find lighten and gap filling have been most successful for me. In this case, I'm going to go with gap filling. And then we do the same. We just click we can click start processing up here. Another thing that we can do in both of these programs that's a bit more useful in this photo compared to the previous is that we have a road that runs through the lower portion of this photo. And I'm sure that I captured a few trucks going past through the night. So we can move down individually through the photos. And see, in this case here, we caught the trail of the truck going along the road. And if you wanted to, you could uncheck this box so that it wasn't included in the final result. Personally, it's compositionally a pretty simple photo, and I don't mind the straight line of light that runs through it in the finished product. So I'm going to leave it. So we're just going to go and click start processing, and it is going to do the same thing. It is going to stack our single photos of the static stars one on top of the other and create StarTrails. So again, this is just going to take a few minutes, so we'll take a break. And here we are with our finished product in the StarStax program. We have created a StarTrail image that was, so we're in the southern hemisphere again, we're facing due south, and so we've captured the southern celestial pole in which we've got those concentric StarTrail circles around the celestial south pole. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. We can save our image as well. And then we are going to move on to using Photoshop with a script to create StarTrails within Photoshop. So just like in the StarStax and StarTrail programs, we need to stack our images together in Photoshop, which doing it ourselves one by one can be a very time-consuming and fiddly process. And especially as a beginner, is maybe not the best use of your time. And so another way that we can do that whilst using Photoshop is using a script, which is like a set of commands that tells Photoshop what we want it to do. One of those scripts is from a website like theocean.com, where she has a free script that creates StarTrail effects available for download. So we can download our script here through it's in Dropbox. And then once that's available, we can install it into Photoshop. So we have downloaded the Creative StarTrail pack, and I've unzipped them as well. So from here, you can either take the files individually or you can take them within their folder. And we want to move them into the preset section of our Photoshop program. So we want to come through our program files, Adobe, whatever version of Photoshop that you're running. You want to come down into presets and then into scripts. And once you're there, you want to paste the folder into the scripts portion so that Photoshop can access it. After that's been done, you can open Photoshop and we can import our batch of JPEGs into Photoshop. So we can go through File, Scripts, and load files into Stack. Just the same, we want to locate our files, import them all. The advantage of using Photoshop is obviously that we don't have to download another program, and also we have a lot more creative control over how we use the images, but it does create images of file sizes, enormous file sizes, which makes processing much slower compared to using StarTrails or StarStax. So again, we will take a break for a second. Oh no, it's ready. And then we'll click OK, and it will work at importing the 60 photos that we have selected and placing them all within the same Photoshop file as different layers. Now that we've done that, we've imported all 58 of our photos, and they've been placed into one file in a different layer for each photo. From here, we can go up to File again, Scripts, and this is where our creative effects script that we downloaded from Like the Ocean. So we want to use, because we've got because we're stacking StarTrails, we want to use the creative effects script. This one will pop up for our blend mode. I've been using Lighten, which seems to have a good result, and it has I guess a few different and interesting options, styles that you can pick. We might do the spaceship style, which creates a different effect with the StarTrails, and then we just click Run Script and we let it go for a little while. We'll come back in a few minutes. So we come back here a few minutes later and our script has been working hard while I've been eating toast, which I think is how the world should be. And in our absence, the script has done a few things, including making changes to the opacity of each layer so that all of our layers are visible in one. The spaceship style that we selected to start with shows up, I guess, kind of obviously like with our big StarTrails up on the top right hand side. Yeah, just a little bit something different. And from here, we can, just like all our others, we can save our file. And that way we get to keep it. And that's us done. We've gone through the process from having a large batch of shorter exposures of the night sky to getting a final processed image with StarTrails, including batch editing in Lightroom, using the StarStax and StarTrails programs, and using a script from liketheocean.com to create StarTrails in Photoshop.